We both met at university, like on a course for illustration for graphic novels. But although we got into a relationship there, we never really thought about working together.
No, that kind of happened out of desperation.
Yeah, well, it wasn't planned at all, but it was just because we both needed comics work, and we saw Jeremy Whitley saying that the third volume of Princeless had to lose its artist due to personal reasons, and so they were looking for one. And we were like, well, we could do that, but we realised that neither of us could do all of it.
Yeah, neither of us had done anything that size before either, so it was a case of that would be way too much for either of us to take on by ourselves for the first run out, and that would be a good idea to try doing it together. I was always very messy, and you're always the really neat one.
Yeah.
So that way it made more sense for you to actually do the final line work.
Also, you are better at you're better at capturing gesture and all of that, so it makes more sense for you to pencil.
Yeah.
For anybody who is listening who isn't familiar with Crowded, Crowded tells the story of Charlie and Vita. Essentially, it takes place in a future that seems to quickly becoming the present, in a gig economy where there are apps for everything, including Reaper, where you can have somebody assassinated, and Defender, you can hire someone to protect you. And Charlie has a Reaper campaign, so she hires Vita to defend her, and then it's bonkers from there, essentially.
Yeah.
How I do.
Pretty good.
That's good. Good summary.
So, Ro, I wanted to ask you. You go in first in terms of once you get the script to pencil everything, correct?
We break down the scripts together so that partly because it makes it a lot easier to actually understand the script sometimes, because I do have some processing issues. So sometimes I can't quite tell what some of the descriptions are actually asking for, because if there's a lot of stuff happening, I can't really pick out sometimes the essential parts, and I get bogged down in everything.
Yeah, because I don't know if you've seen every now and then they go around on the internet, the photocopies of Dave Gibbons' copy of the script for Watchmen, and each panel has almost a page. So it's just the script for the first page of Watchmen. And each panel of those 9 panels has almost a page of description in type, and then Dave has highlighted 5 words out of each page, and said, "Oh, this is the key bit I need to focus on." Right. So it's kind of
thankfully it's never had to be cut out quite that much. No, but it's the same principle.
Yeah,
it got to a point sort of. Chris trusted us to take the script and do something that would work with it. So sometimes we would tweak little elements here and there, but we didn't really necessarily have to discuss it that much, because just do what works.
Yeah, we did have firm input in the way the plotting goes for the third volume.
Yes, I was talking about little details of the.
Because we had when it came to before the third volume, we had a big chat with Chris to see where we all thought it should go, and I couldn't for most of the third volume. I couldn't tell you who came up with what. Honestly, at this point, in issue 3, when we first get Cersei coming off of the plane and picking up that limo and hacking into it with using her glove to override the auto-driving limo's fingerprint recognition.
Okay.
And that wasn't in the script originally.
It was just a driver.
It was just a driver with a sign saying Huffnagel. And we thought it made it a bit more obvious that she was a badass, and that she was a really competent operator, to instead have it be an auto-driving vehicle that she was able to override and steal. So things like that. We have got some tweaks, and a lot of our input was more passive stuff, like background gags. Every background gag was ours, pretty much. So any one of the like the weird
Brands.
adverts or brand names or things like that. That was us just
Okay.
messing around.
Yeah. Charlie's
the-
TV list.
Yeah, her DVR
Yeah.
schedule. Yeah, well, again, it was important to us to it was really important to us to like round it all out and make it feel like it was a living, breathing world. Because it would have been
Right.
really easy to just not give the world itself any character, but you can learn so much about the people by the world that they're living in.
One of my favorite things, I think, is one of the casinos is just a big black box that's like The Godfather or something.
Corleone's.
There we go. I
Yeah.
quite like that one. Just like, this one's
Yeah.
easy to draw. Just a big black box.
The thing I find funniest about that though is that, the building that we've got there for Quincy, the
Yeah.
giant penis, and there's actually in Vegas a giant penis building being built out of
Yeah.
glass.
Well,
Only even looks even more like a penis than ours did.
you
We
didn't.
didn't think that would happen.
No, it was just another one of those like horrible examples of, oh, good, there goes our design work into the real world. Doing Crowded, I was really sympathetic to. There was an education specialist in this country who, like 20 years ago, was asked by the government to basically give them a warning sheet of things that would make education worse, and he did. And within over those next 20 years, all of those warnings actually were implemented as policy. And so they asked him to do it again, and he refused with a very memorable line, which was, "Today's satire is tomorrow's policy." And like doing Crowded, I've really come to sympathize with him.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the stuff with the layouts of pages in general was trying to when you ask about when we get the script and stuff, part of what we also do is count each word bubble in the script so that we and because I work digitally, so then we count each word bubble and put placeholders for figuring out the basic size of what each word bubble would be and how much space the letter is going to need. So it's a combination of leaving enough space for the lettering while also trying to cram as much into the page as possible. So that involves sometimes having oddly shaped panels and stuff, just trying to make sure there's no blank space because well, it's called Crowded, so everything is crowded. I remember issue 7 in general was just because I don't want to put any spoilers in, but there's a lot of movement, and I was keeping track of every single thing
to an insane degree.
Yeah, I really didn't need to, but a lot of suitcases flying around. I was keeping track of everywhere they should be in each panel for like the majority of an issue, and I drove myself a little bit insane with that.
Issue 6, when they were leaving LA.
Oh god,
that splash page of them just about to join the freeway with all those people lining it.
Yeah. I mean, you have the highway. That's where everyone is chasing them.
They're lining the streets. They're being
right.
they're being
Splash
escorted by
page.
cop cars. And it's like just one giant panel on the page. Like they're being flanked by cop cars as they're driving out, and then like both sides of the on ramp to the freeway is just lined with people, and the freeway above is lined with people.
there's at least 200 people.
I think we counted it was nearly 300 people on there.
I did enjoy the car chases.
Yeah, I was going to
car
say
fighting.
the car fights have all been like they've been some of the best stuff, because it turns out like car combat is actually really fun to do, and not many people do it as well. Like, you know, it's not a very common thing. Car chases are often said to be like really hard things, but honestly, we found them to be really entertaining to make. We wanted to make sure it didn't feel static, because you know, it's very easy to have beautifully drawn books that still feel still even when they're not. Like, they're beautiful, but there's something about them that feels
frozen in time.
Yeah, like they've been done with a camera with really really fast shutter speed. So it's like, it's, you know, if you ever seen a photo of someone's cycling or running on really high shutter speed, you can see that they're in the middle of an action, but there's no action in them because you've caught too fast, too brief a moment. And there's a lot of beautiful art out there like that that's gorgeous to look at, but we wanted something a bit rougher, a bit readier, that moved. That was another thing as well. Like, we were always really conscious that because there's so much in there, that we needed to make sure it was easy to read. We wanted it because, again, like, if you've got really complicated page layouts, it can be off-putting to people who don't know comics very well. But happily, we've had feedback from, at this point, probably, well, definitely tens, if not hundreds of people who've said that Crowded was their first comic and they found it really easy to read. And that's, well, it's exactly what we wanted. I mean, the evolution of Vita's Arms was specifically parodying Bruce Willis's progression through the Die Hard movies. That was the whole point.
That's amazing. I don't know if I realized that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, because just got better at drawing anatomy. Was like, well, now we can do this better. We might as well do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Vita's Arms, but the design was all us. There was pretty much no, like, I mean, obviously we had to like run it by Chris for approval, but
sure,
he didn't have any fixed ideas about them at all.
He just gave us the lowdown on their personalities, and we came up with something that fit it.
Yeah, the only stipulation we had was, given her entitled and reckless attitudes, Charlie ought to be a white person because you know, in America only a white person could get away with living the way she does.
Yeah,
but,
that's fair. That's fair.
But that was the only like actual note we had before we started.
Okay. I don't know.
You did Charlie, I did Vita.
But you did Vita first, and I did Charlie to be the exact opposite of Vita.
Yeah.
That's basically how it came out.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Like, yeah, so Vita, I specifically chose like kind of Pakistani American ethnicity because, like, I mean, because that way you get those kind of really interesting hard angles in the face. Like, yeah, really strong defined nose and cheekbones, and so it gave her that was a really easy way in to give her a very proud bearing. Then like, I mean, her costume design was all really intentional as well, because it was, you know, she's still wearing the same sort of clothes she did in her former job when she had a real button down, you know, proper job, apart from jacket and boots. So it's like the whole thing of her wardrobe was designed to show a tension between not being able to let go of who she was and trying to convince herself that she's this badass right now. Yeah, once I designed Vita, you just ran with Charlie.
So we got tall, hard angles, quite svelte. So it's like, yes, short, curvy, and rounded cheeks and a pointy chin. That'll work. There we go. Crazy hair, bright pink. Why not? We have a lot of people in the background, so instead of just trying to phone it in and just like this random people in the background that look quite bland or boring or all look quite similar, it's like there's so many different types of people. You can oftentimes just like a quick Google of like just like people on the street in America and type things. So it's like, oh, these type of people would be interesting to draw. So you can have all different types of body types and hairstyles and
ethnic features,
and just trying to populate the world with as many different types of people as we can, and not just phone it in the background. Yeah,
like, is the idea that, you know, anybody who's reading the book could feel like they belong in that world, that there is them in there somewhere. That, yeah.
The most memorable person I can remember from the scene you were talking about, where everyone on the freeway and they're driving past. Still remember that Sikh guy who was clearly getting ready for work and had an iron as a weapon.
Yeah.
So he was my favorite on that page.
Yeah.
So tiny, but it's like very distinctive to me.
It's a little less chaotic.
Okay.
Because things are starting to pull into an ending. So
Sure.
Fewer explosions, more personal chaos.
yeah, I think that'd be a good way. Yeah, the scope of things starts to narrow as we get into the end game.
For reference pictures, I always find it's better to take videos of doing the motion. Because if you try and pose for what you think it should be, quite often it does not actually come out as what the movement would be. So if
that's really smart. Yeah.
Yeah, so taking a quick video and then finding the frame on your phone to like, this is the kind of thing I'm after, works a lot better than just like stand on one leg for 10 minutes, get the right angle.
That has been asked of me.
Yeah. But I've learned now. I've learned. Made a lot of SketchUp models based off the ideas.
Yeah, like, Vita's house, we made fully.
Really?
Almost, yeah.
Like, we did the struts in between the floors
to make it period accurate for a cross section.
Because we have that open panel.
Yeah, isn't there like a double page where?
No, just a single.
That's a single.
It's a single page, and it's the whole house.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The whole cross section.
Yep, and so the entirety of that structure we made in SketchUp.
But part of why we chose what angle we did for that page was because otherwise the house would have been too broad for a single page. So there would have been a lot of dead space at the top and the bottom. So
or like a lot of missing space at the edges.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah.
So it's like just an angle, which made it more interesting to look at, and I think it worked really well.
Yeah. That was a couple of days of SketchUp modeling.
Yeah.
Ted and Ro, thank you so very much for talking to me today.
Thank you.